Hi everyone, Rich Crescenti here with another in our series of videos making music with Melodyne, and today we're going to be focusing on harmony creation. Now in this example I've got just one vocal and I want to create some harmonies using that, so I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do that, and then also a few ways to add some character to it so they don't just sound like robotic copies of the original vocal right there. Some ways to add some life and dynamics to this as well. Okay, so let's dive right in and take a look at this right here. Now I've got my lead vocal track, and what I want to do is add a harmony on this one word. Let's take a listen to it. First up, we get this phrase.
Like a phoenix from the flame.
Okay, I want to add a harmony to the word flame right there. I know that's the first thing I want to do. But in order to do that, a really important first step, I think, is to make sure that you have all of the correct key and chord information. This is going to make your life a lot easier, as it will help eliminate wrong notes. And especially in a case like this, with this piano, I've got some jazzier chords in here. I want to know which notes are going to work in each part of the song for harmonies and make it easy for myself to do some experimentation quickly and easily. So first thing we want to do is get that key and chord information. So I'm going to come right over here to my electric piano. And of course, this was done polyphonic, right? Unlike the vocal, which was done melodic for algorithm. We see, if I select all of these electric piano notes right here, we see that it was done polyphonic decay, and that's exactly what we want. That's because polyphonic decay is for instruments that have a good attack and release, like a piano or electric piano. If it's something that's smoother, more legato, and doesn't have that attack and release, you can go ahead and try polyphonic sustain. Okay. So next up, now what I want to do is I want to get the key information. And we see our key track right here, right? The default says C major. So we see these two little sharps right here, right? If you don't see your key track, you can come over here and click on this key track, and you'll see it says C major right there. That's not right. That's just the default. So what I want to do is I want to analyze the key of this song. So I'm going to come over here and right click on this and go down to analyze key. And it's going to look at all the information and tell me that the key of this song is D flat major. Okay, now I want the chords, so I know for each part of the song which harmonies will work. And this chord track is right underneath there. There's no chords in there yet. If you don't see your chord track, it's this little button right here that says Show Chords. Now that I've got all the notes selected, I can just do the same thing, right-click here and say Analyze Chords, and now we get all the chords of the song. Now here's where this becomes useful. If you look at my background right now, my background is just set to keyboard. Right? So white notes are white, black notes are gray. Instead, I'm going to come over here to the pitch grid and choose chord. And now what I get is very specifically notes that work not just in the key, but in each chord of the song. So when I come over here and look at my lead vocals, I know for this word flame, this note will work, and this note here as well. So this makes it really easy to try some different harmonies. Okay. So now I'm going to start making some harmonies, and it's as simple in this as with copy paste, same as you've done in a million other programs before. Command C and Command V. However, you can also right click and you'll see copy and paste right there. Now, Melodyne does something really cool right here, which allows you to copy and paste one word over another. So if I were to select this word and right click on it and hit copy, I could now go to any other point in time and click on that word and hit paste, and it just pastes it right in there. Now, I don't want to do that. Instead, what I want to do is I want to copy it and be able to drag it up above. So instead of clicking on another word, what I'm going to do is click on it and hit copy, and then make sure that no notes are selected. And I'm even going to make sure that my cursor is right there. And when I hit Command V, it literally drops it right on top of the other word. So now what I can do is just come to my pitch tool and just take it and drag it up. I'll drag it up to the third right here. So now we get
Like a phoenix from the flame.
Okay, we hear a third. Let's add another harmony to that. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to hit Command C, make sure that we aren't on anyone, drop my cursor right there, and hit Command V, and it does the same thing. It drops it on top again. So now I can take this one and just drag it up. Let's give this a listen.
Like a phoenix from the flame.
Not bad. Let's try this instead.
Like a phoenix from the flame.
I don't like that octave right there. I'm going to undo that and drag that right back down right there. So I like this chord that this creates right there. But now when we listen, we get it. It's kind of all the same. It sounds a little bit robotic, right? And you can even see all of the phrases are exactly the same. So let's talk a little bit about how to add some character and life in there. First thing I want to do is I'm going to select both of these and just come to my drift tool and just drag that drift down a little bit, but also more importantly, I think come to my modulation tool and smooth those out. I don't want quite as much vibrato in background vocals, right? I want those to be a little smoother. But I might take my lead vocal and accentuate that vibrato a little bit more to make it stand out, give it a little bit more character as well. So now, I think what I want to do is I also want those harmonies to be a little lower in level, right? So I'm going to select both of those again and come over here to my amplitude tool and just bring those down just a little bit. Let's bring those down 3 dB. You can see I brought those down by 3 dB right there. Let's give this a listen.
Like a phoenix from the flame.
Okay, that's nice. I like that. That sounds really smooth and those blend in pretty well. But I want them to still sound a little bit different than the others. So in this case, I might want to try a little bit of work with formants. Now, formants are the character, the portion of the sound that is not the pitched content. So this is what makes someone sound older or younger, or like a man versus a woman. So formants are really good for, I think, with background vocals like this. In this case, if I've got the same singer, I will raise the formant on higher harmonies and drop the formant on lower harmonies, and it just gives a different little bit of a spread. It's a different character. So I've got a loop set right here. I'm going to set this on loop and let that play through. Switch to my formant tool.
You come.
And let's make sure that loop is working right there. Okay, great. Now in this case, what I'm going to do is take this formant and drag it up. I like that. I think that's added just a little bit of spread, just a slightly different character makes it not quite sound like the same singer all the way through. Okay, now another thing that's going to change slightly with real background tracks, if you have them, is timing, right? So what I want to do now is come to my timing tool, and I'm going to turn off the timing grid right here and select both of these, and there's a couple of different ways I could handle this. The first thing I could do is I could just move them so that they start slightly later, and we get
Like a phoenix from the flame.
not bad. That sounds pretty good to me. Although what I generally really want is instead of them starting later, I just want them to have a slightly slower onset, right? Not quite the same hard consonant. Now, this word flame doesn't have a really strong consonant at the beginning, like a P or a T or anything like that. If it did, this next trick would work even better, but it still helps a little, which is to come over here to your attack speed tool, and I'm going to bring this down on these a little bit. Now, all this does is change the speed at which the blob reaches its maximum amplitude right there. So it just ramps up a little bit slower. And all this does is make the background vocals not hit as hard on the consonant. So let's check this out.
Like a phoenix from the flame.
Okay, now what I could do is to accentuate that even more is come over here to the fade tool and just fade in a little on those. And maybe so they end a little earlier, kind of fade out on them a little bit too. And let's give this a listen.
Like a phoenix from the flame.
All right, great, that's good. Now we have the lead vocal right at the beginning and right at the end, and in the middle we've got a nice band of harmonies, which works well. Okay, now I want to change this phrasing even a little bit more. So I'm going to show you one more trick, which is with the time handle tool. I'm just going to drop in a couple of time handles at various spots in here and show how this allows me to just change the phrasing. Okay, good. So what I can do is I can come over here to this one, and you'll notice with the time handle tool, on either side of it I can stretch and squeeze, but on the other sides it doesn't affect it. So what I can do is take this one and drag it a little bit later, and this one a little earlier, a little later, a little earlier, a little later, and you'll notice that does affect the fade, something to think about. Do this a little earlier, a little later, a little earlier, a little later, and a little bit earlier. And now what we get is
like a phoenix from the flame.
okay, that's great. Those blend in really, really nicely right there. I like that a lot. Now, this way of working has a couple of very cool benefits, right? One is that we're not really taking up any extra tracks. It's not using up any more RAM. If your system is getting maxed out and you want to add some harmonies, this is a really, really nice way to do that. But there are some downsides to go with this as well, such as I cannot now treat these or EQ these differently, or compress them differently, or even add different amounts of reverb. So an alternate way to make harmonies inside Melodyne might be instead to duplicate the track. So watch what we can do right here. Now that I've created these harmonies, I can come over here to this track and come over here to duplicate. And I'm going to actually add 2 duplicates of this. And hit OK right here. And I'm going to call this Harmony Vox 1. And I'm going to call this other one Harmony Vox 2. Okay, here's what's great about this is now what I've got is my lead vocal and Harmony 1 and Harmony 2, so I can just drag this vocal up to the top and drag Harmony 1 above it. Now I've got these 2 harmony parts inside the lead vocal still, so I could take each of those and come over here to my info pane, which is this little box right here, and turn that note off to make sure, because we don't want those harmonies inside the lead vocal anymore, right? Now I can come over here to Harmony 1. I want Harmony 1 to be this third right here. So Melodyne gives us this really cool feature, which is to select the third, and then you can right click and come up to Select Special and go to Invert Note Selection. And that selects every single other note. And I could delete all those notes. However, a smarter thing to do might be to come over and turn note off. And this way later on, if I want to find any individual note and just turn it back on, right, I can just come over and click on it and turn that one note back on. Great, super easy to do. Now I can do the exact same thing in the second harmony, right? In this one I want to keep the higher harmony, so I will select that, right click, go to Invert Note Selection, turn all those notes off. Okay, so now I have my lead vocal without any harmonies inside of it, my Harmony 1 with just third, and then my Harmony 2 as well. This is great because now what I can do is come over here, for example, to Harmony Vox number 1, right, the third. I can pan that to this side and pan the other one to the other side. And then I see on the lead vocal I had just a little bit of this short reverb in there, which is kind of like a blend reverb. But I'm going to want to put more of that in my background vocals. So I'm going to put a little more reverb on those. And now when we listen, we get
Like a phoenix from the flame. You come back and
great. We just used Melodyne to create some brand new harmonies and showed a couple different ways to do that. Hope you've enjoyed this today. Thanks.